Okay, there is not very much technical about this discussion, this lecture as such. Okay, we are going to talk about very general aspects of malaria now. Okay, the focus of this lecture would be what are the different types of malaria. Okay, how to control malaria. Okay, in this section, how to control malaria, we would be talking about different types of methods by which this malaria can be controlled as such. Okay, uh, this is going to be a short and this is going to be a very general lecture as such. Okay, so let us begin with types of malaria. Okay, now as I have already told you, malaria in human beings is caused by four species of plasmodium. Okay, can anyone recall what those four species were?
Sir, Vivax, Ovel, Falciparum, and Malaria.
Falciparum,
Plasmodium
malaria.
falciparum.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good, very good. ठीक है. Of these three, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium falciparum are very common, while this fourth, that is Plasmodium ovale, is rare but widely spread all over the world. Okay, this
Yes.
Plasmodium vivax is very common among all these four species. The important morphological and physiological differences between different species of Plasmodium, well, they cause different stages of malaria. Okay, or different type of malaria, as you can say. Okay, so the very first type of malaria is called as tertian or benign tertian malaria. Okay, तो इसमें क्या होता है, द कॉजेटिव स्पीशीज फॉर दिस टाइप ऑफ मलेरिया इज प्लाज्मोडियम वाइवैक्स. तो प्लाज्मोडियम वाइवैक्स से होने वाला मलेरिया कौन सा है, टर्शियन और बिनाइन टर्शियन. ओके.
Sir,
हाँ, यस.
are you presenting something
नो
because
नो
we
नो नो
can
नो
see only a
नो,
white screen?
वाइट
Okay, okay,
स्क्रीन ही है
yeah,
इसमें. ठीक है.
okay, okay. Huh.
There is nothing. I'm just talking about this types of
Hmm.
malaria. Okay.
Okay, I thought that you're
No
sharing
no
and
no,
I
I am
can't
not
see.
sharing anything. But whatever I am talking, इसके ऊपर आपके एग्जाम में सवाल आने वाले हैं. Okay, I
Huh.
have just not created slides. I usually, when I go to class, I go on talking like this.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But since it is recorded, you would have everything. You can prepare notes out of this thing. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
and maybe
Hmm.
you can circulate among yourself and write if anything is asked on whatever it has been discussed in this class as such. ओके, तो
Okay.
पहला पहला टाइप कौन सा पढ़ रहे थे अपन, आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट टर्शियन
Tuition.
और बिनाइन टर्शियन. इसे अपन बिनाइन टर्शियन भी कहते हैं. इसका पॉजिटिव ऑर्गेनिज्म कौन सा है, प्लाज्मोडियम वाइवैक्स. ओके, बात समझ में आ रही. सो इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज वाइवैक्स मलेरिया. The erythrocytic cycle is completed in 48 hours and relapse may take place. ओके, तो इसका जो इरोथ्रोसिटिक साइकिल है, मतलब क्या, the moment your parasite get entry into the erythrocyte till bursting of erythrocyte, इसको कितना ड्यूरेशन लगता है, it would take 48 hours. Okay, and relapse can happen. Why? Because plasmodium vivax has tendency to retain itself in liver. Okay, but the death rate is very low in case of tertian or benign tertian type of malaria. Okay, second is malignant tertian. It is also called as subtertian or estivo automal और falciparum malaria. तो इसके कितने नाम बताए मैंने, चार. मैलिग्नेंट टर्शियन, सब टर्शियन, इस्टियो ऑटमल मलेरिया और falciparum malaria. Okay, so this type of malaria is caused by Plasmodium falciparum and is very common in tropical countries. It has a cycle of 40 to 48 hours. कौन सा cycles, इरेथ्रोसिटिक साइकिल की बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर. तो इसका इरेथ्रोसाइटिक साइकिल कितने आवर्स का रहेगा? 40 to 48 आवर्स का. The fever is either irregular or almost continuous. It is more dangerous since infected red blood corpuscles generally clump and block blood vessel of many important organs like brain, lung, spleen, etc. ओके, तो प्लाज्मोडियम फैल्सीपेरम से होने वाले मलेरिया को क्या कहते हैं अपन? मैलिग्नेंट और टर्शियन. ओके, और इसका इरेथ्रोसिटिक साइकिल कितने टाइम में कंप्लीट होता है? इट टेक्स अबाउट 40 to 48 आवर्स. ओके, ठीक है. Then the next type of malaria is called as quartan malaria. Okay, it is caused by species of Plasmodium falciparum called as Plasmodium malaria. It is widely distributed in both tropical and temperate zone. Okay, so the erythrocytic cycle is completed in 72 hours and hence fever recurs every fourth day. तो अगर मलेरिया में फीवर हर 4 दिन बाद आ रहा होगा तो दैट इज व्हाट? क्वार्टन मलेरिया. और फीवर अगर हर 2 दिन बाद आ रहा होगा तो इट कैन बी इधर बिनाइन टर्शियन और इट कैन बी इधर मैलिग्नेंट टर्शियन. ओके, so well these are variation in malarial malarial fevers. Okay, fourth type of malaria that is recorded is called as mild tertian or oval malaria. By its name you can guess that it is caused by Plasmodium ovale. So this Plasmodium ovale, which is widely distributed, the attack is mild and fever recurs every third day causing sudden reaction especially during nights. ओके, अगर ये स्पेसिफिकली रात के टाइम में फीवर आ रहा होगा और हर तीसरे दिन फीवर आ रहा होगा तो वेल दोज आर सिम्टम्स ऑफ ओवल मलेरिया और व्हाट वी कॉल्ड एज मलेरिया दैट इज कॉज्ड बाय प्लाज्मोडियम ओवेली. ओके, द फाइनल टाइप ऑफ मलेरिया इज कॉल्ड एज डेली मलेरिया, जिसमें क्या होता है? इट इज कॉज्ड बाय मिक्स्ड इन्फेक्शन एंड इज मोस्ट डेंजरस. हाई टेम्परेचर रिमेन्स कंटिन्यूसली, राइट? तो हो सकता है कि किसी को 2 टाइप के प्लाज्मोडियल स्पीशीज ने एक साथ में इन्फेक्ट कर दिया हो एंड दैट बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डिसाइड कि एग्जैक्टली कौन से स्पीशीज की वजह से मलेरिया हो रहा है, राइट? बिकॉज द इरेथ्रोसिटिक साइकिल का जो ड्यूरेशन है वो हर एक स्पीशीज का अलग रहेगा, बरोबर है? एंड देयर वुड बी कंटिन्यूअस फीवर as well as the anemic condition would be worse in that case, right? So कितने टाइप के मलेरिया अपन ने पढ़े अभी? फर्स्ट टर्शियन मलेरिया, सेकंड मैलिग्नेंट टर्शियन मलेरिया, थर्ड क्वार्टन मलेरिया, फोर्थ माइल्ड टर्शियन और ओवेल मलेरिया. सॉरी, ये फोर्थ था. फोर्थ माइल्ड टर्शियन और ओवेल मलेरिया एंड फिफ्थ डेली मलेरिया. ओके, तो ये जो सारे मलेरिया है वेल दोज आर कॉज्ड बाय डिफरेंट स्पीशीज ऑफ प्लाज्मोडियम, different species of Plasmodium, right? Now let us talk about control of malaria. Okay, तो अभी अपन काय के बारे में बात करेंगे? कंट्रोल के बारे में बात करेंगे. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट क्यूरिंग मलेरिया, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट कि मलेरिया कंट्रोल कैसे किया जा सकता है. ओके, so as you know malaria spread very heavily due to easy contact between anopheles and human beings. Okay, information regarding mode of infection, transmission, etc. has made it possible to control malaria. However, to prevent infection and its transmission in practice is rather complicated and very difficult. It needs efforts on large scale rather than individual. Okay, in order to protect our household and the community form, you can take some measures, okay, to control malaria. So the very first measure that can be taken is that why don't we destruct the vector at the very first place. Okay, मलेरिया कैसे फैलता है? मलेरिया फैलता है आपके वेक्टर से. तो क्यों ना वेक्टर का पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल किया जाए सो दैट मलेरिया लोगों में नहीं होगा. This would be the very first option if you want to control the spread of this disease, बरोबर है? So now, well, let us first discuss what are different strategies by which people can destroy the vectors as such. Okay, so well, you can say since human beings get infected as a result of infected anopheles bite, obviously the first step should be to destroy the mosquitoes. It can be made effective by various methods. The first and very simple method would be natural destruction. Okay, so there are many birds like swallows, swift, nighthawks. There are even frogs, organisms like wall lizards and spider. They would eat adult mosquito and thus they can control the spread of malaria. Okay, another method of destructing the vectors might be mechanical destruction. Adult mosquito can be caught by insect net and destroyed. They can be killed by hand. Water traps and light traps can also be used to set up and trap them. Okay, this can be also one of the measure to destroy vectors. Okay, third one would be destruction of mosquito by insecticide. One can use insecticide to destroy the mosquito. So we'll say for example अभी इंसेक्टिसाइड कौन से हैं? There are types of insecticide that are usually used for destroying the vectors. Like they can be stomach or contact insecticide, or they can be poisonous fumes of sulfur, cresol, pyrethrum, etc. ओके, तो ये जो सारी चीजें हैं, ये सारी चीजें अगर ह्यूमिड एयर में फैला दी जाए, so this mosquito can be driven away from house. Okay, तो आपने गांव में या फिर छोटे शहरों में, आई हैवंट सीन इट इन पुणे, जो म्युनिसिपैलिटी वाले होते हैं वो गाड़ी घुमाते हैं, राइट, एंड दे स्टार्ट स्प्रेडिंग फ्यूम्स. ओके, तो ये फ्यूम्स क्या के होते हैं? इसमें सल्फर के फ्यूम्स होते हैं. Okay, so this is one of the measures of controlling this disease by destroying the mosquito as such. Okay, another method is something called as spraying. Okay, if you periodically spray DDT, okay, DDT या fleet या pyrethrum, इससे होगा क्या? Well, it has proved to be immense value in destruction of adult mosquito. बट इसका सबसे बड़ा ड्रॉबैक ये है कि द स्प्रेड सरफेस रिमेन टॉक्सिक फॉर सेवरल मंथ्स इवन. So by chance, if there is some kid playing around, and if somehow that gets entry into that kid's stomach, it can cause several side effects or toxic effects. Okay, so each and every mechanical, or you can say destructing the vector, it has got its own merits and demerits as well. Okay, नेक्स्ट एक स्ट्रेटेजी क्या रह सकती है? व्हाई डोंट वी डिस्ट्रक्ट द ब्रीडिंग साइट्स वेयर मॉस्किटो यूजुअली ब्रीड? ओके, तो मॉस्किटो अंडे कहाँ पर देते हैं? तो मॉस्किटो ले एग्स ऑन सरफेस ऑफ वाटर विच कंटेन्स हाई परसेंटेज ऑफ नाइट्रोजनस प्रोडक्ट, ऑर्गेनिक मैटर एंड CO2, that is carbon dioxide. These breeding grounds can be destroyed by destroying such water bodies. Proper drainages has to be built. Okay, occasional drainage of large ponds and pools are needed to be carried out regularly. इसीलिए गवर्नमेंट हमेशा कहता है कि आपके घर में पानी जमने मत दो. ओके, बिकॉज स्टेल एंड स्टेगनेंट वाटर, इसमें आपका मलेरिया का जो मच्छर है, दैट इज द ब्रीडिंग ग्राउंड फॉर these mosquitoes. Okay, so larvae and pupae of this mosquito can be destroyed by fluctuating the water levels even, right? If the water level is lowered, most of the larvae would eventually die. ओके, सो अगर घर में कूलर्स हो गए या फिर कोई बर्तन होंगे जिसमें पानी जमा रहता है बहुत सारे दिनों तक, तो it is kind of advised to remove out all of such water to avoid breeding of mosquito. That is the sole thing. Okay, the another method for Well, these are all mechanical or man-made method. Okay, so there are another method called as biological methods that can be used for destruction of malaria. Okay, so इसमें biological agents use होंगे in order to control the population of that mosquito. Okay, well, say for example, there are certain fishes like goldfish, minnows, okay, sticklebacks, trout, okay, ducks, and जिसे अपन there are fishes जिसे अपन मराठी में गप्पी मासे म्हणतो आपण. गप्पी मासे पाळा. सरकार का ये भी पिछले कुछ दिनों में अभियान था कि वेल लेट पीपल पेट दैट गप्पी मासा and it would not let the larvae of that mosquito to breed or grow. That is one of the method. Okay, so then there are certain plant-based methods are also implemented as a biological destruction of this vector. These includes some of the species like Utricularia. Okay, these Utricularia are plant species called as bladder warts. They feed upon mosquito larvae and pupae. Okay, so if such plants are increased in and around the pond, well, they can also be helpful in destructing this vector. There are certain algae like Cara. Uh, uh, these algae, Cara, they produce very high concentration of oxygen, and you know that for survival of these mosquito larvae, they require high concentration of carbon dioxide. Okay, so plants like Cara, by producing high concentration of oxygen, would make water unfit for breeding of mosquito. This can be also one of the biological destruction strategy. Okay, then there are some water weeds called as lemna, जिसे अपन duckweed भी कहते हैं. So these duckweed prevent larvae to have free access to air. तो लार्वे को ऊपर भी आना पड़ता है फॉर टेकिंग अप द ऑक्सीजन. तो ये डकवीड अगर रही तो दे प्रिवेंट दैट लार्वे फॉर गेटिंग द फ्री एक्सेस ऑफ एयर. सो these are some of the methods which can be used for destruction of vector. ओके, बात समझ में आ रही सबको है या नहीं? या भाग गए सब लोग? हेलो.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
हाँ. So
Yes, sir.
we were talking about control of malaria. कंट्रोल ऑफ मलेरिया में कौन सा है? वी कैन डिस्ट्रॉय वेक्टर्स. और अभी अपन ने जो कुछ भी मेथड्स पढ़े, दोज आर इंक्लूडेड इन डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ वेक्टर्स. अगला कंट्रोल मेजर क्या रह सकता है? यू कैन इवन प्रिवेंट द इन्फेक्शन. ओके, तो मच्छर मारने से अच्छा है कि अपन खुद ही सावध रहे. कुछ ऐसे मेजर्स वी कैन डिवाइस which would prevent infection to ourselves. Okay, these are usually the defensive measures. Okay, the well, say for example, defensive measures usually include the house should be in an airy place with proper drainage. It should be constructed away from marshy areas जहाँ पर mosquito का ज़्यादातर breeding grounds होता है. Okay, the exposed part of the body can be covered by gloves and socks, especially in the evening जब सबसे ज़्यादा mosquito आते हैं. Okay, mosquito nets can be used during night so that you can protect yourself from mosquito bite जब आप सोते रहते हैं. Okay, defensive measures जैसे कि one can also use repellents such as anti mosquito cream, oil of citrulina, mustard oil, mixture of kerosene and eucalyptus oil. ये सारी चीजें भी लोग यूज करते हैं which can be safely applied on skin. I don't know how people use apply kerosene on skin. कोई kerosene लगाकर कैसे सो सकता है? But still there are certain communities जो ये measures भी लेते हैं just to avoid mosquito bite. Okay, इसके अलावा रेगुलर डोज ऑफ मेडिसिन सच एज प्लूड्राइन, क्विनाइन, and daraprim etc against the malaria will destroy the sporozoid as soon as they are inoculated in the body, and thus their further growth would be prevented. So you can take medication in form of prophylactic. अगर आप कहीं जंगल में जा रहे हैं या फिर कहीं आउटिंग के ऊपर में जा रहे हैं, right? So now you know कि there are chances that you might get bitten by mosquito. So better है कि पहले से एंटी मलेरियल ड्रग्स ले ली जाए, so that अगर कोई वेक्टर आपके अंदर में वो इनोकुलेशन डाल भी देता है तो इट वोंट get further converted into malaria. So these are all the defensive measures that one can use for prevention of infection. Okay, so well, I think this would be enough for today. So in next lecture, we would be talking about the therapeutic strategies and what are the therapeutic options that are available for treating once the malaria happens to that person. ओके, तो अब तक अपन ने क्या पढ़ा? लेट अस रिवाइज. सबसे पहले अपन ने पढ़ी उसकी लाइफ साइकिल. What happens into human beings, what happens into liver, what happens into erythrocyte, how it gets entry from one host to another host. In mosquito we have seen how development happens. Okay, उसके बाद में we have discussed what are types of malaria, right? And what are the causative organisms that cause what type of malaria, ये अपन ने पढ़ा. उसके बाद में we have seen what are the measures by which we can control the spread of this disease. Okay, we have also seen few of the strategies by which one can control the spread of this disease, like destruction of vector. इसमें भी अपन ने बहुत सारे methods देखे. We have also discussed the biological destruction method for controlling the spread of disease by controlling the population of this parasite, and eventually the defensive measure अपन ने discuss किए. Using this defensive measure, what you can do is that you can prevent the infection of this disease, right? तो ये सब करने के बाद में भी अगर किसी को मलेरिया होता है, जो हमेशा होता है, then what can be done? So what are the therapies which are available? What are the molecules which have been proposed, or what are the molecules, drug molecules that are usually prescribed, how they function, and what are the new therapeutic strategies that can be developed? इसके बारे में अपन चर्चा करेंगे अपने नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में. ओके, तो आई थिंक
Yes, sir.
दिस वुड बी इनफ. अभी अगले लेक्चर में क्या पढ़ेंगे अपन? वी वुड लर्न अबाउट द थेराप्यूटिक ऑफ मलेरिया, और यू कैन से द थेराप्यूटिक्स इन्वॉल्व्ड इन मलेरिया. ओके,
Yes, sir.
ठीक है.